Started. Hello everyone. So we have Mr. Amol Agarwal here. He's from the 2017 BITS batch, and he passed out in 2021. He's currently working as a process design engineer at Aditya Birla Group, and has scored very good rank of 435 in the recently conducted GATE exam. Yeah. So we will be having the podcast with Amol here. So we'll be asking him some questions, and he will be answering them duly. The questions intend to help a viewer, generally a chemical engineering student, to get a good knowledge of the domain and how he can work towards excelling in it. Yeah. So hello Amol.
Yeah. Hi Dash. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I think we can start now.
Yeah. So here is my first question. Yeah. What does a chemical engineer do?
See, so many a times people associate a chemical engineering with chemistry. So first of all, I want to clarify that chemistry and the work related to that is entirely different. So if you are planning to become a chemical engineering, then just like remove the fact from your mind that it is related to chemistry. Chemistry is there, but it has a very little role and contribution about the knowledge that you gain while you are doing chemical engineering. Yeah. So a chemical engineer is basically responsible for designing, controlling, optimizing, and improving a chemical process. So typically, like what happens is like you need to first understand the process. So that is like being taught as a part of your curriculum. So designing the process. Designing the process connects a person's work to budgeting, contacting the vendor, technical analysis of the equipment. Yeah. So this is the cycle which a company follows. That first it generally hires a consultant or sort of person who tells them that okay, so for doing this work you need this type of device. And so what then the company does is, or the chemical engineer does is that it looks upon the vendors who have who are like in the scope of supplying that device. So let us say, for example, you can consider a pump here. So suppose a person needs a pump to transport water from to a height of 50 meters, right? So there you will look upon the vendors who have done this type of thing, and after the vendors, like they send you the generally the offer, then you do the technical analysis of the equipment. So basically, if I align it with the current type of work, so you can say all the back end type of work is done by the chemical engineer, right? Like all the process designing and planning of that is done by the chemical engineering. And after, like once the process is set up, like once your plant is running, then you are also responsible for controlling the process. Like basically sometimes what happens is any type of error occurs in the system. So as a chemical engineer, you need to identify that error and like take appropriate action. If the action is in your not in your scope, then you need to contact the appropriate person. So that is also like uh, a part of your work. And last is the optimization. So once like the plant is set up, then you are like properly controlling that, and then after that also you need to like improve the process over the years. And many a time like government norms, many type of things change, the quality of products needs to be different. So there comes the work of optimizing the process. So this optimizing work is generally done by an engineer which who is like more experienced, like has around 3 to 5 or 6 years of experience. So after that, like people are generally more involved into this type of work. Previous to that, more work is if like as an engineer, you are more responsible for controlling the process and the designing of the process. Right.
Yeah, I think that summarized very well what does a chemical engineering do and give a good idea to the viewers how a chemical engineering can be intensive as well as very working for anyone. Yeah. So let's move to second question. So what are the different roles that a chemical engineer can be recruited for? Basically
So
at a fresher level. Yeah.
right. So basically, when we sit for campus placements or like try to apply from outside also, so chemical engineers are typically hired for two types of roles. That one is the general manufacturing based role, that is which is the industry is known for, and These roles typically have headings such as graduate engineering trainee, process design engineer, cost estimation or budget engineer, field engineer, oil well engineer. And many times a companies recruit by the name of trainee. So trainee, the point of the trainee is like when you are, so even after studying for 4 years, when you are going to the industry, your condition is exactly raw. Like you don't have much details about what the process, exactly what type of equipment are installed in the system and what type of process is there. Because what we are taught in college is obviously a more generalized thing. Like, so it has been observed that maximum number of people go to the oil and gas industry. That is why things related to that only are taught mostly. But many a times, many different type of devices are there, of which like you are supposed to have a sound knowledge. So that is why like the company's objective is like to hire an engineer as a trainee, keep him or her for probation for around 3 to 6 months or 1 year, and then like then assign them a post of a manager or a proper engineer. So many companies follow this type of pattern as well. Other type of roles are more related to business side. Like these are supply chain management trainee, business development and analytics related roles. Like these typically don't test out your knowledge of core chemical engineering. These are like certain type of additions that use your knowledge of chemical engineering. And uh, one role also, like the number of companies coming for this role is quite less, but many a time they hire people for R&D, like research and development also. So that is a typical pattern that industry follows while hiring a chemical engineer. Yeah.
Yeah. Like recently, HUL also came to the campus and for the R&D roles along with its SCM roles. So yeah, R&D roles are also increasing in internship at BITS as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Last year, for the first
So
time,
moving,
Reckitt and Benkiser also came up for the R&D related role. And like many companies, typically Abinbev, Mondelez, they generally come up for supply chain related roles. Yeah.
yeah. So moving on to the next question. Yeah, the one thing common to all the students of the chemical engineering for studying at BITS is the core courses or the CDC. Yeah. So what are some of the most important courses you feel one has taken during these CDCs, which will help them to aid the interviews, or you can say the role which they're intending for as a chemical engineer, be it the internships or the placement season?
Okay. So like that's what we can do is like divide this thing into two segments. One is like, so as I mentioned above, that there are typically two type of work related roles that come up. One is for manufacturing and one is for analytics and related roles, right? R&D related roles. So for core manufacturing roles, typically heat transfer and fluid mechanics are the most important courses, because as I told, like when you go to the industry, like there is not specifically one work which you need to do, like as a chemical engineering. So you will do your like you will do your work only related to what involves chemical concepts of chemical engineering. That is not the case. You should have sound knowledge of everything. So that is why fluid mechanics and heat transfer come up in the first place, because like they typically have a union of concepts with the mechanical engineer as well. So as a company, when I'll recruit a person, I'll like prefer now that they should have knowledge of both fluid mechanics and heat transfer, so that not only they can contribute in the chemical segment but as in the mechanical segment also. So that is why fluid mechanics and heat transfer are most important. So you should have like a person who is preparing for core placements should have like very good knowledge of that. And typically in that also, if we come to concepts, then in fluid mechanics, pumps is highly important, and in heat transfer, heat exchanger. Basically, you can say mechanical equipments are more important, and questions are based on that. So when you are like giving an interview. On the other hand, like if I say specifically to chemicals, then KRD, PDC, that is process design and control, plant economics, if you are going or if the company is interested in recruiting for the budget part, and SP1, that is separation process is one. Probably it is known as mass transfer in many other colleges as well. So mass transfer is there, which involves concepts of distillation. So that is also important. But that is the case I mentioned. Like when if a company is coming specifically to do only chemical related things, then he or she, then the recruiter will prefer people who are having knowledge of these all subjects. But if a company is coming for mixed work, then fluid mechanics and heat transfer is a must. Apparently, like problems from mechanical operations that is present in SP2 in bits and uh, drying. Yeah, these are the concepts which uh, are also like currently being asked. Besides that, basic knowledge of stoichiometry, and so if you have basic knowledge of stoichiometry, then half of the CPC is also done. So CPC is also many a times people ask. And if you are going into the R&D side, so math science can also be considered as an important course, but math science, since math science is not a CDC in many of the other colleges in India, so that is why companies don't generally ask questions related to this. But I think so. If I mention three subjects, so then it's fluid mechanics, heat transfer, and mass transfer, or SP1 and SP2. Yeah.
Yeah. So these were related to the core chemical courses, like all the students they have to pursue. Yeah, but as college provide electives to the students, so so that it can help them to mold their pathways. But how can one decide on choosing a good elective for him or her?
See, one advantage that BITS offers is like while we are pursuing elective, it gives us the option to like do courses which are relevant to the industry. So one elective that I would definitely suggest is chemical process technology, because chemical process technology is the one course that mainly connects chemical engineering to the uh, process, basically oil and gas industry specifically. And in many other colleges and the IITs also, it is taught as CDC. So chemical process technology can is a good elective which can be pursued. And many a times, like when you are appearing for interviews in GATE exams also and in campus placements also, like concepts related to chemical process technology are asked. Besides this, biochemical engineering is also like being asked in some of the companies that come in the come in our campus for recruitment, specifically Ebenweb, because it is a like beer manufacturing company, so their biochemical engineering firm also comes handy. Then PRT is also a good course to do, because PRT obviously, as the name suggests, petroleum refining technology, it connects you to the oil and gas industry, which cover the major scope of the chemical jobs in our country. And one is like what as an interviewer, what I prefer is that the candidate has a sound knowledge of safety practices at the plant, that type of activities as well. So that is why like process plant safety can also is a good one to do. Last, which I think is EPC. EPC stands for Environmental Pollution Control. So that is important. Like, so typically the domain of this course is very large, because one thing is like for appearing into engineering services exam, uh, yeah, environmental engineering is one discipline, but chemical engineering is not. So if you are doing EPC and you are target government services, then it is a good advantageous part. Like if you have done a course also on that. So there, so these five courses I can classify as handy. Many a time, like new courses are also coming up, such as membrane separation processes. So that courses are not like more related to job related roles, but like that courses can obviously help a person to go into research, like membrane separation and transport phenomena. Transport phenomena obviously is a very good course with respect to if you have a nice liking for the subject. And but like these you can not you will not see the direct involvement of these courses in getting you jobs. So that is why like these five courses can be done: CPT, environmental pollution control, biochemical engineering, process plant safety, and petroleum refining technology. Apart from that, like bits yeah bits also offers open electives, right? So in the open electives, like supply chain management can be done. Supply chain management is a good course which helps you to learn about basic concepts. And as Darsh also mentioned, that HUL came for the supply chain trainee role, and many two or three. companies come for the supply chain related roles only. So that is why if you have knowledge of supply chain management, that is also a good part. Apart from that also, like you can do finance courses. So finance, what the advantage that finance course offers us is like so when you are doing cost budgeting, so there if you know the concept of finance, then it is a good part. Like it helps you to do your work efficiently and quickly. So that is why like finance courses are also a good thing which can be done. But these are open electives, so like that's not much important with respect to chemical discipline.
Yeah. So moving on to the next question. Yeah, comes to the application of things which we all learn in the course in the second year or third year, and as practicing just before entering the industry comes the internships, which help a student to develop the profile as well as apply these things and the knowledge they have learned and develop into something useful, which will help them ahead when once they're placed and they leave the college. So internships become a very important part. So how can one find internships in the field of chemical engineering?
Like first of all, what is the like why the internships are not much famous in chemical engineering is like the fact that, as I also mentioned above, that companies believe that the domain of the industry is so vast that a person cannot learn in like 2 months or 3 months, like exactly like about the working of the company. So, but like many companies as are switching to a trend are switching to the summer internship model also. So on campus also like a large number of companies come up for summer internships such as Reliance, ExxonMobil, Evenweb also came last year, HUL, JSW, Mondelez, and SKF Limited. So one is the like the direct part to getting an internship is like preparing good for campus placements, internship season. So there also like additionally one uh, feature that BITS offers is the PS1 in their curriculum. So according to me, like PS1 is a very good option to explore like what is happening, what type of work is happening in these internships. So obviously they won't, as an intern, they won't like be relying on you to do a certain type of work, but like at least you can explore like what is being made, how it is being made. And when you go to the industry, so there also like you are able to see. So many core companies such as Grasim, Century Rayon, Villa Carbon, Henkel, HPCL, BPCL, IOCL. I also did my internship like PS1 there. So one is the uh, path to like having an internship there also is a good option. Uh, and many like one option that most of the people from other colleges also do is like to do vocational training in PSU. So many of the companies such as Indian Oil, GAIL, HPCL, these type of ONGC, these type of companies organize 2 to 3 months vocational training. So for that, you don't really need to develop much a profile or you can say give a exam sort of, or there's not a defined procedure for that. Mostly like you just need to go to the company portal and apply for an internship that like I want to do an internship with. And if you are like having a person who is there in like in your contact who is working on in these companies, he or she can easily arrange for an internship there. So there also like there's a very good type of environment. You meet people from various parts of India and other colleges. So there you can learn a lot. Apart from that, what is getting famous typically for chemical engineers is research-based internships. So research-based internships are like given by colleges such as IIT, ICT, which are famous for chemical engineering, ISC. So there also like there is a standard procedure for that also. Like you need to go to the IIT website. So these type of vacancies come up like on a regular basis. So you can go to the website and apply for these processes for these internships as well. And one unexplored part in this is a foreign thesis, like foreign internship. So the like that type of uh, typically like I haven't done. So that like in what I have heard in that is like to go to a university's website, look for the relevant prof that you are like in the area that you are searching for, Like suppose you want to do a research internship in something in energy related thing. So you can go to the university website, some search for the professor who is doing a research uh, in this domain, and then like ask him for a research intern or thesis. So these type of experiences, like if the professor likes your profile and like your ideas and that sort of in your project, then he or she contacts you like by himself, like to come and do a internship there. So these type of internships are also becoming famous nowadays.
So moving on to the last question, how can one ace a technical interview in the chemical engineering domain?
Okay, so like first of all, like it is not entirely not entirely different from IT interviews or non-core interviews. But yeah, to ace a technical interview, first of all, you should be extremely clear on the fundamentals of each and every subject. So the 5 subjects which I mentioned before, you should have sound knowledge of the basics of that. And also one additional thing that is critically important is like your resume here. So many a times what happened is like in your resume, a different thing is written uh, from the one on which you are expecting a question. So if I can give an example for this is like many people mention their experiences uh, like in a you can say in a wide manner or like in a expanded manner. So that is not like you should ideally do here. So what happened was like in my third year when I was giving an internship interview, I had mentioned that I had done a research in vocational training in IOCL Mathura refinery. So now what happens is when you mention the word refinery is that the interviewer expects you all like you have knowledge about everything of the refinery. So that is one important thing that you should limit down your learning. So like if I give an example of a refinery, so you should explicitly mention like which these are the units which I worked upon. That is AV, AVV, AVU, that is atmospheric and vacuum distillation unit, FCCU. These are the units which I have explored, I have looked upon, and I have learned about them, and I have understood their processes. So that is one important thing which you should always keep in mind. Other than that, most of the interviews that also I mentioned, like they ask about general mechanical devices such as pumps and heat exchangers. So the reason for this, as I also mentioned above, is to normalize between chemical and mechanical students. So yeah, one thing like I would like to tell is like when a core company comes up, it generally doesn't specify the criteria that only open for mechanical, only open for chemical. It generally invites all the students from chemical and mechanical. So that is one thing. That is why like these sponsors become highly important. Other than this, like as far as the process is concerned, so only like generally 1 or 2 rounds are there. Most of them are based on technical aptitude, and last part of the interview is kept for the HR part. So since like majority of the interview is in a technical aspect, so like you should be strongly clear on your technical concept. And HR session like generally these don't play as much a part. It's basically just based on the fact that the like the plants, if you're working in a proper core sector, then the plants are located in very remote locations. And like you should, so that is one thing they generally talk and discuss about that whether you are comfortable in working with that or not.
So in today's podcast, we talked about the chemical engineering domain in depth, the different roles, the different skills, the different courses which can help one to make an excellent profile in the chemical domain, and as well as tips and tricks to ace the chemical interviews, which are one of the most important parts before any recruitment. So I would like to thank Mr. Amol Agarwal to come to the podcast and share his important inputs as well as views so as to help the many other students who will be watching this podcast again. Thank you, Amol.
Yeah, thanks to you, Dash, also like for inviting me. And one thing, like basically, I would like to encourage the students for like to first, like what happens is like many a times people are more inclined, they don't study their domain and they like directly decide कि नहीं मैं तो IT में जाऊंगा, like I will do this non-core thing. So please don't like restrain yourself from doing that. First, like you should ideally understand the industry, and if you don't like, then you have ample of time in your like second, like around when the completion by the completion of second year, you are able to realize and like whether I'm liking this subject or not. So after that, you can work on your placement, and like all the best I would like to say. Like, and it is a very good industry. Like the work you are doing, like I am doing is differently, quite different from the one my friends is doing. So like you should like give a chance to explore this as well. Right.
Yeah. So completing the podcast for today and dropping off. Once again, I thank Amol to join with us.